What's going on, y'all? It's your boy D Sports. I feel like it's time. I feel like it's time we get the mock draft, the final mock draft. Draft week is officially next week. And let's do it, man. Let's go ahead and rip the band-aid off and let's get this final mock draft half. I hope you guys are having a great day today. Please like and subscribe to the video. I hope that you'll bear with me. This is going to be, again, one of those longer videos, just because we know we want to break down everything and break down some analysis of it. So without further ado, let's get to it. So we got I'm gonna have obviously myself. We're gonna do it this way. We got the PFF mock simulator here. So I think it's set in stone that Tennessee is going to take a quarterback. They had they sent a bunch of guys. They've settled in with Cam Ward. They've already they flew out to go see him. They even canceled and Shador Sanders canceled their visit to go see him. Watch him work out. The Tennessee Titans, I think, bearing an unbelievable trade, which I very unexpectedly do not expect. I think they will take their franchise quarterback, and it will be Cam Ward. Plus, Cam Ward recently too was on Fortnite listing Tennessee Titans players as like the best at their positions and stuff like that. So I think Cam Ward knows, and the Tennessee Titans know that this is going to be their franchise quarterback. And I know again, he's got the size, the arm strength, the athleticism. He's got the potential to be a really good quarterback and the traits to be a really good quarterback in this league. Has to work on right playing more within the pocket. He's not going to be able to do a lot of those things right that he was able to do in college football. Kind of similar to what Caleb Williams was. He's going to have to really play within structure. And there's times too where trying to make the big plays a lot got him in trouble. So he's going to have to clean that up a bit. But I think Bryce Callahan, seeing what he was able to do with Joe Burrow, can really help Cam Ward develop into a really good franchise quarterback. So Tennessee Titans take Ward. Travis Hunter, my opinion, he's my number one player on the board, the best player in this draft, in my opinion. Look, the two-way talent, he's a Pro Bowl talent at wide receiver. He's a Pro Bowl talent at corner. I think he will project better as a wide receiver with his traits, his hands, and I think he still hasn't reached his ceiling as a wide receiver because he has to play two positions. And I think there's upside really there. And plus, he would come in right away with Cleveland and be kind of that two-way guy. Andrew Berry had kind of two. He compared him to Shohei Ohtani. I know it's a bit different. I know some people are kind of, they got their opinions on the Shohei Ohtani. I think look at it where the ability to do multiple things and at such a great athlete, maybe not the styles from baseball compared to football, but being able to do multiple things, I think Travis Hunter can do that. And I think the Browns, they just need star power. They need star power. They need somebody who can bring in an immediate impact. And Travis Hunter would be absolutely that. So, and he's the betting favorite to go number two overall. And I think Andrew Berry, after his recent comments, I think that's going to be their guy moving forward. So Travis Hunter goes to the Browns. Abdul Carter to the Giants. I think this makes a lot of sense. Look, they've invested heavily in the quarterback position. They brought in Russell Wilson. You signed Jameis Winston. Also, too, when you look at the Giants and their history, one thing that has helped them propel them in success is having Lawrence Taylor, right, in the 1980s. And in my opinion, the best defensive player to ever play in the National Football League. You have the era to where you have Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck. They signed Brian Burns last year in free agency. This could potentially mean as well. Sorry about that pop up. That Kayvon Thibodeau could be potentially traded. But I think, look, the player. I think Abdul Carter is a franchise changing player, a guy who's a generational talent, second, probably number two overall prospect too in the draft. So with that being said, I think the Giants, and I think Abdul Carter will be happy and excited to be a Giant after his recent post. So Abdul Carter goes to the Giants at number three. So the Patriots, this is a trade down spot, right? The Patriots, now that those guys are off the board, they could trade down, accumulate some more draft capital. They could do that. But if they do stay at four, I think that gives them reasonable cost. If they stay at four, build around Drake May. Take your franchise tackle. Will Campbell is a beast. He's gotten better every year in pass protection and run blocking. His demeanor, I think, too, fits what um Mike Vrabel really likes in an offensive lineman. Armand Membu could I wouldn't be surprised if they take him, but he's more of your right tackle side guard. I think he'd be better as your right tackle. Take your left tackle, a guy who is comfortable and it has played left tackle in the best conference, in the most competitive conference in college football, and protect Drake May and improve your run game as well. Will Campbell to the Patriots. So everybody has had Mason Graham to the Jaguars. It has been Mason Graham, Mason Graham, Mason Graham for the last for Mike, for Mel Kiper, and for everybody else. But I'm seeing a lot of steam about this guy right here, Mr. Ashton Genty. And I remember, and I compared it to this point. I talked to a couple of my guys. I said, I remember when in 2017, the Jaguars, I really wanted us to take Jonathan Allen. As you know, Jonathan Allen just got a new contract and is headed to Minnesota. He's going to play for the Minnesota Vikings. He's been when healthy, been one of a really best, one of the best defensive tackles in football right now in the NFL. And I really wanted Jacksonville to beef up the defensive line. We need to get better. And we had already had, we signed Chris Ivory, we had TJ Yeldon. We didn't need a running back. But then some steam kind of picked up. And I'm seeing that same kind of similar steam where Ashton Genty could be the pick here in Jacksonville. If they stay here, this could be a trade down spot. But if they stay here, right? And also think about it this way: what are the Would Mason Graham obviously look great player? I'd like the pick, but he's going to improve the defense. But is he really going to improve the offense? No, he's not going to do that. He's not going to. At this point we have to really the Jaguars need to emphasize building around Trevor Lawrence. And I think too, seeing what Liam Cohen was able to do with Bucky Irvin last year, you get a guy like Ashton Genty, and this could mean too that Travis Etienne, and I think that would be the case. Tank Bigsby stays, Etienne you trade him for a day 3 pick and get him, he departs, you bring in Ashton Genty, and now you have Trevor Lawrence and Ashton Genty. I think this could be the pick, and this could be a shocker to a lot of teams. But I think why not, right? This offense needs a breath of life, and seeing Ashton Genty, seeing what he was able to do, not only uplift an offense, but he can uplift the team overall. And also, when we drafted Leonard Fournette, and we end up taking him, he led us to the AFC Championship. I'm not saying Ashton Genty's going to do that. But Ashton Genty, look, the talent is there. So I'm going to take Ashton Genty to the Jaguars. So obviously, these picks swapped. I had originally Genty going to the Raiders, but now that that's not the case, the Raiders are now like, oh man. And then these will be, in my opinion, the two catalysts here. Do they take the wide receiver here, Ted McMillan, Eugeno Smith, give him a number wide receiver, or do you take best player available, in my opinion, Mason Graham? Seeing what the Rams have done in the past, they've normally taken best player available. And I think Mason Graham, I don't see Mason Graham falling outside the top 10 for any reasons. I know there's some arm length concerns. I don't see that causing him to fall. So with that being said, you build your defensive line. Now you've got Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, Mason Graham. Go that there. The Jets, right? The New York Jets. So what had the rumor has been too is that while a lot of people say that Orma Membu, and he rightfully could be the pick, they do need a right tackle. They really need to solidify the offensive line. But I also saw a report that the Jets really are interested and like Tyler Warren. I also really like this too for the Jets for the simple fact they need to get. I think their offensive line, other than that right tackle spot, is set, and I think they can address that later in the draft. I like this tackle depth class. I think they can get a guy somewhere in that second or third round that could solidify that spot. Also, one thing about dual threat quarterbacks that help them succeed: Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback. They need tight ends. Lamar Jackson, so a huge part of his success has been Mark Andrews. Cam Newton, right when Cam Newton was playing, he had Greg Olson. And then you saw Michael Vick even. Michael Vick had Andre Cumberland, guy who he could throw the football over the middle to. You know what I'm saying? Give Justin Fields. He's got Garrett Wilson. His offensive line is pretty good now. Go ahead and take a guy like Tyler Warren who can do so many things. He can block. He's a really good receiver, red zone threat. I think he would really help this offense. Pair him with a Garrett Wilson, and they need some skill positions. Tyler Warren makes a lot of sense for me. I'm taking Tyler Warren to the Jets. All right, and I don't see this pick changing one bit. And I got my boy Jalen Walker to the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, they were one of the worst, if not the worst defenses in the NFL last year. They need to add more pieces. They had a guy like Frankie Louvu who made plays who ended up getting a free agent contract. You bring in a guy like Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker is a really good football player. He is a really good leader. He's versatile. I think he projects better as an edge. You need that. They need juice. They've beefed up the trenches a bit. They signed Taharian Wharton from the Chiefs. They bought in Bobby Brown. You've got Derek Brown coming back. Jadavian Clowney's still there, but he's getting up there in age, and he's kind of proven again. He's not a double-digit sack guy. You need more juice off the edge, and you need some guy who can also bring some leadership on that team. Jalen Walker would be a great pick for the Carolina Panthers. So this could be a pick here, but I think the Shador Sanders, and I really don't understand the hate again about Shador Sanders. I don't understand it. I don't understand the falling and stuff like that. But Kellen Moore, one thing, again, right? Seeing what he was able to do with Dak Prescott, I think the city and I think the structure overall. I know New Orleans, they're still there's some pieces away, but I think stabilizing the quarterback position. I don't think even if Derek Carr does play this year, I don't think he's the guy moving forward, right? And they literally restructured his contract to where, it was team friendly now. I think for Kellen Moore, you bring in your quarterback, get your quarterback of the future now. Spencer Rattler to me is your backup for a reason. He's not going to be your future. He hasn't proven to me to be your franchise guy. Plus, I think for Shador, I know Chris Olave, there's some injury concerns right there. I know Alvin Kamara is getting a little older, but still, I think you can build around Shador Sanders. I think the city of New Orleans and going to a place like New Orleans, I think would be really great for Shador Sanders. I could even see a team like the Steelers. Could they maybe get aggressive, move up, and take Shador as well? But I think overall, Kellen Moore, this would be a great fit. I compare Shador Sanders to a Dak Prescott slash Geno Smith, and seeing what Kellen Moore was able to do with Dak Prescott, I think he could do great things with Shador Sanders. So I got Shador Sanders going to the Saints, and officially they get their franchise quarterback, the guy who will officially succeed Drew Brees. So what I'm hearing too now with the Bears, my opinion, I would take Amari and Hampton here, but I think, and also I just read a report from Bleacher Report that the Chicago Bears really like the tight end group and they want to take a tight end. And so Tyler Warren obviously just got off the board. So with that being said, and a report too that it said they really like Colston Loveland. So with that being said, they're interested in taking him. I don't understand it because they already have Cole Kmet, a really solid tight end, but they want to continue to build around Caleb Williams. I think right now they like the running back group. Maybe they see the draft to where to how the running back class is deep indeed. So they'll take, the running back later and they'll just add more weapons for Caleb Williams. They, as you know, too, they signed Gerald Everett in free agency last year. I think he's a free agent now, so they want to kind of play two tight ends. Plus, also, I think this would be a good fit for Ben Johnson. So Colston Loveland to the Chicago Bears. It to me really wouldn't make best sense. I would take Omari Hampton. I think he's good enough to be a top 10 pick, and he can slot in and make an impact in the run game. But from what the reports say, I think they're gonna do what they want there. So I think, obviously, he could probably not fall this far. There is a really big, momentum for Amron Membu to go in the top 10. But I think this would be a great fit. And this 49ers, they need to improve their offensive line. Armand Membu has positional versatility, in my opinion, with his athleticism. I think he would bring in the meters, something in the trenches that the 49ers desperately need. They need to build the offensive line around Brock Purdy. So Armand Membu, who tested off the charts, he's big, he's physical, he's fast, he's athletic. Get a guy in there in the offensive line who can really, maybe potentially even two, could, kick in the left side and potentially replace Trent Williams. Or you could just put him at guard. They did lose Aaron Banks in free agency. They got the other guy as well. Just improve the offensive line for Brock Purdy. All right. I think the T Max slide ends here. And the Cowboys take Tori McMillan, 6'5, 219 pounds. You pair him with CD Lamb, get another playmaker, a guy who can take the top off the defense. McMillan, too, is, he's met with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys would love that pick. Could potentially Matthew Golden go here as well? Or could we see a big Tet slide? I think that is not the case. I think Tori McMillan is the true or the number two wide receiver in this class. I think you take him at 12, and the Cowboys would be very excited. So the Miami Dolphins, they've made it clear that Patrick Paul is going to be the left tackle, right? Teron Armstead just retired. Patrick Paul, they drafted him last year to be the future guy. He started some games, showed some promise. Teron Armstead said that too. He is ready. Patrick Paul, I believe in him. So Patrick Paul is going to be the left tackle, regardless of what people they'll probably mock the pick. He's going to be the left tackle. So I had Kevin Banks going here. But with the Dolphins, they also just made it clear that they are going to trade Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey and the Miami Dolphins are parting ways. So with that being said, they need DB help. They need corner help. They also, I think, they let go Kendall Fuller. They cut him in free agency. They have a glaring need at corner. And I know the offensive line, the Miami Dolphins, they need to get better up front, continue to get better. I know they signed James Daniels to a 3-year deal, but they need their cornerback need is glaring. So with that being said, I actually don't have it where Will Johnson goes here. I could see this too, where the best corner. So remember, right? Sauce Gardner was agreed to be the best corner in football in the draft. Derek Stanley gets taken before him. It was the same thing with Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn. Patrick Surtain was CB1, quarterback one, but J.C. Horn went before him. So I could see this too. Same thing. Jade Barron, who also has less injury concerns, also has positional versatility, can play inside, outside, and can play safety. I think he'll be the pick there. Also tested very well and had a really good season. Won the Jim Thorpe Award as well too. So would make a lot of sense. The Colts are a bit interesting. What do the Colts do now? So I think a lot of their top targets, like Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, the offensive linemen too, are kind of down. So what do? They have a lot of needs as you see here. This is a guy that I could see going here, Nicky Manwari, but they just signed Cameron Bynum in free agency. They also have another guy in Nick Cross who I think they like. So with that being said, I don't see safety being the pick. They could still take him, but I think they're going to do this. I think, look, the Colts, they lost Will Fries and Ryan Kelly both went to the Vikings. So that's a glaring need on the offensive line. Tight end would have been the pick here, but the top two tight ends are off the board. I don't see Elijah Aguero going into the first round. So with that being said, I know Tyler Booker did not test well in the combine, and then I know, and this pick probably seems like a reach, probably right here, but I think Tyler Booker, the prospect, despite the lack of athleticism, I think you just slot him in at guard. You need to protect Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, whoever the quarterback's going to be for the Colts. You just need to rebuild. You got to get that offensive line fixed up, right? You got two glaring needs in the inside, in the interior, specifically at guard. Get Tyler Booker in there, and I think it makes a lot of sense for the Colts. Plus, they've already invested heavily in the edge rushing department. They drafted um, the guy, what's his name? I know they have Quiddy Pay and man, Laiatu Latu. They drafted him 15th overall last year. They've already addressed kind of their edge rushing need. They don't need really edge. Maybe linebacker. They did lose EJ Speed, but I think they like Zaire, my boy, in there as well. The Falcons. This pick ain't changing one bit. This pick is not changing. They need edge, and Mike Green has cemented himself, I think, as a top 15 pick and as one of the top edge rushers. He tested his cone drill, his 3 cone drill was like in the 7.1s or something like that. It was crazy. It was crazy, something crazy for an edge rusher. It was an incredible time. And he was very productive in college, over 16 and a half sacks, did play in lesser competition, but go watch his tape versus Ohio State. He showed up. He played that he can play with the higher of competition. Former wide receiver does kind of have some off the field concerns that could scare something away, but I think that's been cleared up a bit. So with that, the Falcons, they cement their edge, they get their edge and Mike Green. This to me is a no-brainer right here for the Cardinals. If they see this guy fall to them, this would be a steal. Will Johnson. Look, Will Johnson has some injury concerns that, in my opinion, could be a top 10 pick. Is a top 10 talent, but seeing right, they haven't had a corner, a Pro Bowl type corner since Patrick Peterson, who just retired with them. Right? They need a guy in there who can be a playmaker, a cornerback, in my opinion, who could be one up there with one of the best if he's healthy. Will Johnson goes to the Cardinals. The Bengals, they defense, 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 defense. They need defense. They need as much talent as they can get. Now, this was a guy who I saw who got some top 10 heights. The guy originally I had in the top 10, but he's kind of sliding a bit, right? There is, again, right? The lack of sack production is a glaring concern for me. It really is. But the upside, the Bengals, they need a bunch of help. They need talent. They need juice. They need somebody who can just really breathe some life into the defense. They tried it with Miles Murphy. It has not worked out yet. What's the name too? Trent Hendrickson is currently seeking a trade. They haven't kind of resolved that situation. So with that being said, a guy like Shamar Stewart, who has some inside outside flexibility, just get a guy who could potentially be a really good athlete, a playmaker. Shamar Stewart makes a lot of sense for me for the Bengals. The Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion, I think they focus and address the offensive line and Kevin Banks Jr. to me makes a lot of sense. I know he's a tackle. They have not Chris Cross, Charles Cross at left tackle. They have Abe Lucas. Abe Lucas has dealt with some injuries recently. He's been banged up a lot. And Seattle needs offensive line help. If Sam Darnold is going to succeed as their quarterback, he needs to be protected. And I think Kelvin Banks can come in and not only can potentially be a right tackle, but he can slot in at guard and really help you. And plus, I really liked how he tested at the combine. He moved very well. Did struggle versus Georgia. My boy, my dogs definitely gave him a tough time. But other than that, Kelvin Bashir, the upside, the tackle, I think he can be a tackle slash really good guard, Pro Bowl potential in the NFL. So Seattle takes him. Not the care, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made it clear they want cornerback help. They are going to address the cornerback position early. That has been their emphasis. Todd Bowles on NFL Network said that per NFL Network. They want to get the cornerback position figured out. They want their DB room to be stronger and better and more improved. I know they have Jamel Dean. They've got some other guys as well. Tyke Smith, Kirsten. It was another guy as well, but who was an undrafted free agent who made some plays for them. But the outside corner, Zion McCullum, he's inconsistent. He had his good moment, then he had his really bad. Maxwell Harrison I think Maxwell Harrison, who tested very well at the combine, runs a 4.29 40 5'11" with long arms, I think, and played in the SEC. Did miss some time last year with an injury, but was a second team or third team All SEC in his fourth season. I think a guy who has much experience, and they need that true number CB2. They need to improve in their secondary. They've already addressed their edge rushing positions. I think they can address linebacker later in the draft, get them a corner, and Maxwell Harrison would make a lot of sense for them. Plus, like again, Todd Bowles, he wants that cornerback route to be a lot better. This to me is a no-brainer for the Broncos. If this guy is available right here, a guy who I had originally going to the Bears, this is a no-brainer pick. Omarion Hampton is the pick here. Over 1,600 yards, RB2 in this draft, and I think the value too for him is great as well. Omarion Hampton to the Broncos is to get you a guy who's a three down back, can make plays out of the backfield. He would really help improve and help build around Bo Nix. And I think he'd be a great fit for Sean Payton in that offense. I really hate mocking this pick continuously to the Steelers, but they have not addressed the quarterback position yet. They signed Mason Rudolph in free agency. That's it. They haven't signed Aaron Rodgers yet, and now Aaron Rodgers is saying he doesn't know if he's going to play again or not. So with that being said, you got all these guys right here. This tier, like I call it tier 2, 3 of these guys. You got a lot of these guys remember to go here. I think the guy, and if I'm the Steelers as well, I would trade down. I would trade down for value wise, get more picks, and you can take your quarterback later. These guys right here, I would trade down. And I think it's going to be Jackson Dart. I think Jackson Dart, he does have a good arm. He does have really good athleticism. But again, he comes from that Lane Kiffin kind of cupcake offense and the one read stuff. He's got to improve as a decision maker because again, when there was times where his first read was off, it didn't go well. But I think his upside, it maybe is there. I don't know. To me, it feels like the Steelers are drafting uh Kenny Pickett all over again. That's just my personal opinion. So with that being said, but they got to get a quarterback. And with that, Jackson Dart is the pick. And I don't think Steelers fans would be pleased about it either. But they need a quarterback. They got to get one, and it sucks, but they need to. So Jackson Dart to the Steelers. The Chargers, right? They have some needs here. I think wide receiver Matthew Golden makes a ton of sense, right? Matthew Golden, I had him originally going to the Cowboys, and so that kind of changed around. I think this would be a really great pick for the Chargers. They've got to improve that position group. Quentin Johnston, look, he's inconsistent. You've got your number one, in my opinion, in Lad McConkey, my dog, Lad McConkey, who can play inside, can play outside. You get him a true number two and Justin Herbert, and you improve your skill position group from last year. Matthew Golden, really good hands, really good speed. He's a playmaker, in my opinion, too. Made a lot of plays in big moments for Texas. So Matthew Golden would be a great pick at 22 overall. If I were the Packers, they it's like the famous words of Tyler again. You got to change your ways. You got to get a wide receiver, Emeka Ibuka. Their report came out that they met with Emeka Ibuka. Luther Burton wouldn't be a back pit either. I would take Emeka Ibuka here. I would end it and take you need to get Jordan Love, a true wide receiver one. And I think Emeka Ibuka has that upside, but I don't think they're going to do that. And the Packers do this every year. They don't take what they really need. They need another wide receiver. They're going to take him in the second round or wait. And with that being said, they're going to do this as well. They love taking Georgia players. They really like taking Georgia players. They like Michael Williams. I think there's interest there, and they do need more juice off the edge. They're going to take another big edge rusher with upside. Michael Williams will be the pick here. They love taking Georgia players. Javon Bullard recently, Eric Stokes. They had him. They had Devontae. They have Devontae Wyatt. They like to and Quay Walker. So they had another Georgia player. They're kind of like Philly. Call them the Green Bay Bulldogs too. So they add him. I think the slide two for, if you want to call it, for Nicky Manwari. See, they don't even have him. I have some concerns as well about Nicky Manwari. I know he got a little overhyped over the combine thing, and the upside and the traits are absolutely there. The size, and he was productive at South Carolina. But I watched Theo Ash, a really good film breakdown of Nicky Manwari's play, and this guy, he's got some work to do. And I think going to the Vikings with Brian Flores, and you have an aging Harrison Smith would be a great pick. I think Minnesota, they've addressed the offensive line, they've addressed the running back, they've addressed defensive line. They do need DB help, and they lost Cameron Bynum in free agency. So, with that being said, Nicky Ward to 24. I think value wise, that's pretty good. I would take Malachi Starks. I think Malachi Starks, my dog, is the better safety, but I think they'll take the upside in Eamon Ward. The Texans, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, take offensive line. I know they signed Cam Robinson. I know they signed Trent Williams. I know they traded for Ed Ingram. I know they signed Laken Tomlinson and all these other guys. That's not going to cut it. They still need to address the offensive line. It was not good last year, and they traded their best offensive lineman in Laramie Tunsil. So Josh Simmons, coming off the injury, you don't have to rush him back. He has positional versatility, played guard early in his career, played tackle when he played very well. And he's coming off an injury. You don't have to rush him back. And I think his upside, a lot of people think if he were healthy, he'd be the number one tackle off the board. So I think that's saying a lot. And he has that Ohio State connection with CJ Stroud. So with that being said, I think you emphasize building around CJ Stroud and you get your offensive lineman, Josh Simmons. With the 26th pick, the Rams, this to me is a no-brainer. Best player available probably to Jihad Campbell. Their linebacking group was not good at all. The Rams need to improve their front seven, specifically their linebacking group. If Jihad Campbell is on the board for the Rams, I would run to this pick if I was Les Snead. This would be a great pick. You pair him with Jarrett Verse, Brayton Fisk, and those guys. You get a true linebacker, a guy who can also play off the edge. You can blitz. That would be a really great pick for the Rams. I think that would be a really great pick. With the Baltimore Ravens, there's two guys in the run here. It's Donovan Jackson and Gray Zeeble. I think it's going to be Gray Zeeble. Gray Zeeble has, again, he's a tackle, can play guard. The athleticism, has the size, plays very well. North Dakota State, they've done a good job kind of developing some offensive linemen over the years. Again, I think Donovan Jackson could potentially be a pick here. He can play tackle, he can play guard. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do take him here. I think, again, they've already addressed their wide receiver position. They could use maybe some more juice off the edge, but I think they'll address that later. They do still have Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owe there. They signed Chidobe Awuzie to pair with Marlon Humphrey. And now, you know what, too? I could see this happening. Uh, I know the Ravens. The Ravens love taking also best player available. And they do have Ardarius Washington. They do have Kyle Hamilton, and they signed Marcus Williams with the hope that he would pair well with the hope he pair well, right, with Kyle Hamilton. That didn't work out. He got benched. Now he's a free agent. And they've got this guy right here, Malachi Starks. I know the Ravens, they take best player available every time. They find gems, they just take them. So I think I originally had him going to the Eagles, and I'm gonna have to think about this, but screw it. We're gonna take Malachi Starks. I know them. I know they have our Darius Washington, and a guy told me recently too. They kind of like three safety looks, and I think too again him as a Raven. You add him all along with that defense, that would be great. And you pair him with Kyle Hamilton. I think Ravens fans would love that. The fall also ends for this guy, James Pierce. In my opinion, should be a top 15 pick. I would even put him as high as with the Panthers, but he's got some off the field issues, but he tested off the charts. He tested so well, and he's productive in the SEC. James Pierce, the Lions. You pair him with Aiden Hutchinson. You got two edge rushers. You release Zadarius Smith. I know Marcus Davenport they resigned. They resigned him on the cheap, and he's injury prone. So that's that there. Also, another pick here, right? You have the Washington Commanders. They could, right? You continue to build, maybe add some offensive line help. Um, Jonathan Jackson could be a pick here. But you did address, you did get Laramie Tunsil in. You traded for him. I think you add more just off the edge. Dante Fowler is out. You have Cleveland Farrell, you have Dorrance Armstrong, but I think those are more like kind of your two edge guys. So I think you add a guy who's got really long arms, 34-inch arms. It was productive for Boston College, tested well. Donovan Izaraku would be a nice pick there as a late round pick. For the Buffalo Bills, I have them taking a corner. I know they just signed too. They're another team that could just take best player on the board. Let me see who's some guys that they could take. They could take some other guys here, right? But I think they're going to continue to add to their corner room and address that. They traded Kyer Elam, who didn't work out for them. Christian Benford, they gave him an extension. You did bring back Tre'Davious White, but Tre'Davious White has he's just been injury prone and a bit inconsistent. Hasn't played up to that Pro Bowl level that we once saw him at, top five level. So I think they add another corner and Trey Amos, a guy who's long, played very well for Ole Miss last year, had 3 interceptions, I think 11 pass breakups. They continue to do that there. The Chiefs, I think this is a no-brainer pick as well. I think Walter Nolan, you pair him with Chris Jones in the interior of your defensive line. You saw what Philly did, right? Having all those guys up front, well, on defense. So you had a guy with that potential, like, a Walter Nolan. That could be a really good pick there. So that's that for the Eagles. And lastly, with the Eagles, there is so with Malachi, I had Malachi Starks going here, but I know the Ravens, they like to take best player available a lot. So with that being said, the Eagles, they do have some needs. They've got corner need. They do need some corner need. They got a need at corner. Guard could be in play as well. Donovan, and I think this could be the pick here, right? They have a glaring need at guard. So with that being said, Makai Becton left in free agency. You get a guy who's coming off a national championship. I know he doesn't fit the Georgia or the Alabama players, but you protect and you continue to get a guy with positional versatility like Donovan Jackson who can play tackle but can play guard. I think he would be a really good pick. I really like him as a prospect. Seeing what he was able to do when he had to go play tackle, and it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare versus uh Abdul Carter, but after that game, he really stepped up. So there's my mock draft 3.0, y'all. As y'all see it there, that's my final mock draft, and we're gonna rock with it. I like it. I really like it. There's gonna be obviously trades that alter this as well, so not all the picks will be right, but I had to throw some surprises in there. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all enjoyed this mock draft. The mock draft has officially been done. So mock draft, NFL draft day is next Thursday. I cannot wait. Cannot wait to see what my Jags do. Can't wait to see what these teams do, improving their teams. And I'm very happy for these guys getting to see their dreams come true, man. Much respect to these guys and all the work they put in to see their dreams pay off. And not just in the first round, but later on from rounds 2 to 7 as well. Y'all have a blessed day, man. Hope y'all enjoyed this video and be easy. Peace.